The Orion Watchpoint was a small space station floating at the edge of human space. It watched the dark sky, looking for strange things, ships, signals, or anything unknown. Life there was quiet. The crew followed the same routine every day. They worked, they ate, they slept. Nothing exciting ever happened. One day, that changed. It started with a small sound, not loud, just a tiny beep. The signal room picked it up first. A soft tone repeated every few seconds. Technician Alex leaned closer to the screen. "That's not one of ours," he said, confused. His partner, Lyra, checked the radar. "There's nothing there," she said. "No ship, no debris, no movement." The signal was not a message. It had no words, no voice, just a repeated pattern. 4 tones, a pause, then again. When they checked the source, the computer showed something strange. The signal came from a place close to the station, but there was nothing there. Captain Rayner came in. He was calm, older, and trusted by his team. "Could it be a lost probe?" he asked. Alex shook his head. "No, sir. It's too clean. No noise, no delay. It feels like it's right outside." They all looked at the big screen that showed the space around the station. Black sky, stars, nothing else. Then, without warning, something appeared. 1 second the space was empty, and the next, a large ship was there. No lights, no windows, no engine trail. It just appeared, as if it had always been there, but no one had seen it before. The crew stared in silence. The ship didn't match any human or alien design. It was dark gray with strange curves and sharp angles. Its shape looked old and new at the same time. There were no names, no marks, no lights. It was just floating there, like a giant ghost. "How did it get that close without a signal?" Lyra whispered. Captain Rayner narrowed his eyes. "That's impossible. We would have seen it." They zoomed in using the station cameras. The ship was not damaged. It looked untouched, clean, almost too clean, like it had not been touched by time. Alex ran a scan. No heat, no power, no energy readings. "It's cold, like it's dead." The ship didn't move. It didn't respond. It didn't send any signals. But the soft tone continued. 4 beeps, then a pause. Lyra turned pale. "That's coming from it. It's calling us." They tried sending a message back. "Unidentified ship. This is Orion Watchpoint. Please respond." No reply. A minute passed. Then another. The ship stayed silent. Then something strange happened. The station lights flickered. Not for long. Just a second. But long enough to notice. "Power glitch?" Alex asked. "No," Rayner said. "The systems are fine." Outside, the ship stayed still. But in the camera feed, something moved. A small shadow passed across one of the windows, too fast to see clearly. "Was that movement?" Lyra asked. Alex replayed the footage, frame by frame. Yes, a dark shape had moved past a window. But there were no windows. "Wait, the ship had no windows before," he said. They checked old frames. The design had changed. Now, there were small windows on the side, 3 of them. That wasn't there before. The captain looked serious now. "Is it changing? Watching us?" Nobody had an answer. They stared at the ship, which still did not move. A knock came through the station wall. It wasn't loud, just one soft tap, but they all heard it. The sound came from the outer hull, the part closest to the ghost ship. Alex stood frozen. What was that? Lyra's hands shook. There's nothing on the sensors. No drone. No object. Captain Rayner made a decision. Send a probe. We need to know what we're looking at. The small drone launched and floated toward the ghost ship. It moved slowly, sending live video back to the station. The ship looked even stranger up close. Its surface had no bolts, no panels, just smooth metal. The drone reached the side and extended its scanner. Then the screen went black. The drone had stopped working. No signal, no power. Lyra checked the systems. It just shut down. No warning. Alex stared at the dark screen. It didn't want to be scanned. Outside, the ship was still quiet, still unmoving. Inside the station, the crew sat in silence. They didn't know what they had found, or what had found them. The signal continued. 4 soft peeps, then a pause. The strange ship stayed outside the station. It didn't move. It didn't speak. It just floated in the dark, like it was waiting. The crew of Orion Watchpoint couldn't stop watching it. Every hour, someone checked the cameras. They looked for changes, for signs, for anything that could explain what was going on. Captain Raynor didn't like what he saw. He had seen many strange things during his years in space. But this was different. This ship didn't follow any rule. No origin, no ID code, no engine noise. And worst of all, it had simply appeared out of nothing. Alex couldn't sleep. He stayed near the signal station, trying to understand the soft repeating tone. 4 beeps, then silence, over and over again. He recorded the sound, played it backward, changed its pitch, searched for patterns. But it didn't change. It was the same. Too perfect, too calm. Lyra was watching the outside camera again when she noticed something. "Captain," she said quietly, "look at this." He stepped closer. The ghost ship had changed again. More windows had appeared, but they weren't just shapes now. They had glass, and behind that glass, something moved. They couldn't see clearly. It was like a shadow passed behind the window, quick and silent. Not large, not small, just there, only for a second. Raynor leaned in. Was that someone? They replayed the feed 3 times. It was hard to say. The shake didn't match any crew they had. It was too smooth. The way it moved felt wrong, like a memory trying to come back, but not fitting right. They decided to scan the ship again. But this time, instead of sending another drone, they used long-range scanners. Slowly, they collected data. The ship had no power signature, no heat, but its surface had traces of something strange. Old human alloys mixed with materials that didn't exist in the current database. "This isn't just old," Alex said. "Some of these materials, they haven't even been invented yet." That didn't make sense. How could a ship be built from things that didn't exist yet? The crew sent a report to Earth Command. They explained everything they knew, how the ship appeared, the repeating signal, the lost drone, the changing design. They asked for help, for answers. Then they waited. Hours passed. No reply came from Earth. And then something new happened. The station lights dimmed again. But this time, they didn't flicker. They stayed low, like the power was being gently pulled away. One by one, systems started slowing down. Not shutting off, but running slower. Clocks ticked just a bit behind. Door sensors took a moment longer to respond. Inside the station, it felt like time was being stretched. Alex opened a sensor log and found a strange reading. "We're getting energy feedback, but from inside the ship." Raynor looked confused. "Inside our station?" Alex nodded. "Yes, like something is gently pushing against our systems. Not attacking, just touching." Lyra suddenly sat straight. "Captain, I think we're being scanned." The idea was strange. Usually, when someone scanned your ship, you could tell. You could see the signal, the direction, the strength. But this didn't feel like that. It wasn't a machine scanning. It felt different, like something was learning by just being near them. Then a soft sound came through the speakers. It wasn't the same tone as before. This was new. A long hum. Gentle, smooth, like a song without words. Everyone stopped what they were doing. The sound wasn't coming from their station systems. It was coming from the ghost ship. It played for 1 minute, then stopped. Silence returned. Then one of the empty screens on the wall turned on by itself. No one touched it. No one told it to start. And on the screen, a simple message appeared. "We see you." Just that. Nothing else. Raynor stood still, eyes locked on the message. "It's watching us." Lyra whispered, "But how? There's no one on board. No power. Nothing alive." Alex felt cold even though the room temperature was normal. What if it's not a person? What if the ship itself is doing this? No one answered. Then the signal returned. The same 4 tones. But this time, the source had changed. It wasn't coming from the ghost ship anymore. It was coming from inside the station. They ran checks. All systems were clean. No failures. No damage. No leaks. But the signal was now part of their communications network, as if it had always been there. The ship outside didn't move. It just floated, like a memory drifting through space. That night, none of the crew could sleep. When they closed their eyes, they saw the ship again, floating, waiting. And in their dreams, they heard the soft tones. 4 beeps, a pause. 4 beeps, a pause. The next morning, the ghost ship was still there. It had not moved even a little. Still floating outside the station, still silent. But inside the Orion watchpoint, everything felt different now. The crew had tried to act normal. They followed their tasks, ate their meals, checked the systems, but no one talked much. Every person kept looking at the screens, waiting for the ghost ship to change again. Alex stayed near the signal system. He listened carefully to every sound. The 4-tone signal had now become part of the station itself. It didn't come from outside anymore. It played softly through the walls, through the wires, like it had become a part of the station's body. Lyra searched the data logs, looking for the ship's possible origin. She used every database from Earth and known alien sources, but there was no match. No name, no shape, no mission record. The ship had no history. Then she noticed something strange. When she ran the ship's design through the visual scan tool, a small part of the hull showed a marking. It was very old, faded, and almost invisible. But she cleaned the image and zoomed in. It was a logo, a human one. It belonged to a secret space project that never launched, a test mission from over 70 years ago. Records showed the mission was canceled before the ship was even built. Lyra blinked. How can a ship exist if it was never made? Raynor called for a quiet meeting in the control room. The team sat around the table. He showed them Lyra's discovery. "This logo is from Earth," he said. "But this mission never happened. It was only on paper. No ship was built. Nothing was launched." Alex leaned forward. "Then how is it out there now?" No one had an answer. The room stayed quiet. Suddenly, one of the side screens turned on again. It showed a short video clip. No one had opened it. It played by itself. The video was from a ship's log, but not from Orion Watchpoint. It was from inside the ghost ship. The date on the video was set 200 years in the future. They watched as the screen showed a hallway, metal walls, dim lights, quiet air. A voice spoke, soft and tired. "If anyone sees this, we didn't mean to return. We thought we had left forever. But something pulled us back. It's not time as we understand it. It's something else." The video ended. The crew looked at each other. Raynor stood up slowly. "This ship is from the future." Alex replied, "Or from a future that didn't happen yet." They checked the station's time records. Something was wrong. Tiny changes. Their internal clocks didn't match Earth time anymore, just a few seconds off. But it kept growing every hour. "It's like we're slowly falling out of sync," Lyra said. Raynor nodded. "With what?" "With time," she whispered. The ghost ship still didn't move, but the station's cameras showed new details on its surface. Patterns, lines, and shapes began to appear. Some looked like writing, but in no language they knew. One shape looked like Earth. Another looked like a human hand. The last one was unclear. half-finished, changing every hour, as if it was still forming. Alex ran another scan. This time, he got something different. A data packet had entered their system, hidden deep in their memory banks. It was not harmful, just old. Inside was a message file, a voice recording. It played slowly. "We were the first, but we were not ready. We saw too much. Now we wait. Not forward, not backward, just between. If you hear this, leave us alone, or you'll see it too." They played the message again. The voice was human, but the tone was strange, like someone speaking from a faraway place, through a dream or memory. Raynor closed his eyes. They got lost in time. Lyra nodded. "And now they're trying to talk to us." That night, each crew member had strange dreams. In their dreams, they walked through quiet hallways. The walls were metal, smooth and dark. The air was cold, but calm. They saw doors, windows, lights turning on by themselves. And always in the distance, a soft tone playing. When they woke up, they realized they had dreamed the same thing. Exactly the same. They didn't talk about it at first. But when Alex mentioned the hallway, Lyra finished the sentence. "With the small blue light at the end." Raynor looked at both of them. "You saw it too." It was no longer just the ghost ship outside. Something had entered their station. Or maybe it had entered their thoughts. One final thing happened that made them sit in silence. A new message appeared on the same screen as before. It did not play any sound this time. Just words. "You remember us. That is enough." The screen turned off by itself. The ghost ship remained in place, still and quiet. But now, the crew of Orion Watchpoint didn't feel like they were alone anymore. Not outside. Not inside. Not even in their minds. Days passed, and the crew of Orion Watchpoint began to feel the weight of the situation. The ghost ship still lingered outside, unchanged. Its presence was no longer just an oddity. It had become an unspoken burden that grew heavier with each passing hour. Raynor spent most of his time in the control room, reviewing every piece of data they had collected. The clock was still running slow. It wasn't just a few seconds now. It had become noticeable, like time itself was bending or slowing down around them. Their clocks were out of sync with Earth. Even the most basic calculations now seemed off. Lyra had stopped checking the communications channels. No matter how many times she sent a signal to Earth, no reply ever came. The system was fine. It sent the messages. But there was no answer. And the ghost ship remained silent, its beeps continuing like an endless, rhythmic heartbeat. One afternoon, Alex decided to take a different approach. Instead of waiting for something to happen, he thought they should try to learn more about the ship. If it was from the future, or if it was trapped in time, maybe they could break through its strange hold by studying it directly. "Captain, I think we should go outside and take a closer look," Alex said one morning, looking serious. Raynor looked at him, hesitating. "You mean a spacewalk? To the ship?" Alex nodded. "Yes. Maybe if we touch it, get close enough, we'll find something that will help us understand. We've been waiting, but maybe we're waiting for nothing. We need to go to it." The crew wasn't sure. They had no idea what the ship might do if someone got too close. But they also didn't know what else to do. They had already tried scanning it, sending drones, and analyzing every part of the station. But nothing explained the ship's presence or its strange effect on time. "We need answers," Alex added, his voice firm. Raynor thought for a moment. Then he nodded. "All right. Prepare the suits. We'll go." The team suited up for the spacewalk. They used special suits designed to protect them from the cold vacuum of space, and they attached themselves to the tether lines that would keep them connected to the station. The air inside their helmets was calm, but the tension outside was impossible to ignore. One by one, they floated out of the airlock into the emptiness. Space stretched out around them, dark and cold, with only the distant stars to see. The ghost ship was still there, hanging in the void, as if it had always belonged. The closer they got to it, the more they could feel the strange energy around it. It wasn't physical. It wasn't heat or radiation. It was a feeling, a heavy weight in the air that made the hairs on the back of their necks stand up. "Stay close," Raynor said through the comms. "We don't know what's going to happen." They moved slowly, tethered together, as the dark ship grew larger and larger in front of them. There were no lights on the ship, no windows or markings, just smooth, gray metal. It looked lifeless, but the closer they got, the more they could see, small lines, patterns that were etched into the surface. At first, it was hard to make out what they were. The patterns seemed random, like scratches or scars on the hull. But as they moved closer, Alex noticed something strange. One of the lines was glowing, faintly. It was a soft, blue light, just enough to see, like a memory flickering in the dark. Lyra floated forward carefully, reaching out with one hand. She touched the glowing line. Immediately, a soft hum filled their ears. It wasn't loud, just a gentle vibration that seemed to come from inside the ship. And then, something unexpected happened. The metal around her hand started to shift. It didn't break apart or crack. Instead, it melted away, like liquid, revealing a small opening. Inside, there was light, dim, soft light, and an odd, warm breeze. The team exchanged uneasy glances. No one spoke for a moment. The ship hadn't been like this before. It had always been cold, dead. But now, there was a change. "We should go back," Lyra said softly. Her voice sounded distant in the helmet, like a whisper from far away. But the others didn't move. They couldn't. They were drawn to the opening. Raynor made a decision. "Let's take a quick look inside. But we stay close, and we don't touch anything unless we have to." They moved closer to the opening. As they entered, the warmth grew. The air inside wasn't stale or cold. It was alive. The walls were smooth, metallic, and the faint blue light pulsed softly, like a heartbeat. They moved through the corridor slowly, the soft hum filling the space around them. There were no windows, no doors, just long, smooth walls that curved in odd, unnatural shapes. It was like walking through a dream, where nothing made sense, but everything felt right. Then, ahead of them, they saw a figure. It wasn't human, not exactly. It was tall, its shape glowing faintly, like a silhouette of something in a fog. It was standing still, but the moment they saw it, it turned toward them. Lyra gasped, but no sound escaped through the suit. The figure didn't speak. It didn't move. It just stood there, watching them, with eyes that were not eyes at all. They were just empty, dark spaces in its glowing body. And yet they could feel it, feel its presence, like it knew them, like it had always known them. The silence stretched for what felt like forever. Finally, the figure raised one hand and pointed at them. The blue light around them flickered once, and then the figure began to fade. Slowly, it disappeared into the shadows, leaving only the soft hum behind. "Did you see that?" Alex asked, his voice shaking. Raynor nodded. "Yes, but I don't think it saw us in the same way." They stood still for a moment, letting the strangeness settle. The ship was not empty. Something was inside it, something waiting, something that had been waiting for them. And as they turned to leave, the lights flickered again. But this time, it wasn't the same gentle blue glow. This time, it was red, deep and cold. Something was changing, and they didn't know if they could stop it. The crew was shaken when they returned to the station. Their minds were filled with questions, but no answers. The figure they had seen inside the ghost ship was not human. It wasn't anything they could understand. It had looked at them like it knew them, like it was waiting for them to realize something. But what? Raynor could barely sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the figure, glowing and empty, standing in the shadows. He couldn't stop thinking about the way it moved, how it faded away, and how it had pointed at them. What did it mean? Was it warning them or calling them? The following morning, the station felt different. It was subtle, but it was there. The walls seemed colder, the air thicker. Time felt slower. And then, as the crew began their daily routines, the system screens flashed again. This time, it wasn't just one screen. It was all of them. Every single display, every console, every sensor came to life at once. The message that appeared was simple, but it shook them to their core. The clock is ticking. You are closer than you think. Lyra stared at the message in silence, her breath catching in her throat. Closer? Closer to what? Rayner, always calm under pressure, tried to keep his thoughts organized. We're running out of time, whatever that means. We need to understand the ship better. We need to know how it's connected to the future, to us. Alex looked at the control panel. Captain, the systems are changing. I don't think it's just the ship that's affecting us anymore. I think we're becoming part of whatever this is. Rayner frowned. What do you mean? There are parts of the station that don't work the same anymore. The lights flicker. The air pressure changes. The temperature's been fluctuating. And it's not just the ship. Alex said, his voice growing more serious. I've been tracking the communications network. It's as if someone is listening to us. Not from outside, but from within. The crew gathered in the main control room, looking at the growing list of strange events that had occurred over the last few days. The ghost ship was still out there, still sending out its mysterious signals. But now, they were starting to feel like the ship wasn't just watching them. It was starting to connect to them. We're part of its plan now, Lyra said quietly, almost to herself. And we don't know what it wants. Rayner ran a hand through his hair, thinking. He stared at the message again. The clock is ticking. You are closer than you think. What did it mean by closer? Closer to the ship, to the future, to a time they couldn't even understand. In an attempt to understand more, Rayner decided to try something risky. We need to send a signal, but not like we've done before. We need to try something different, something more direct. I think the ship is waiting for us to make the first move, to take the next step. Alex and Lyra exchanged worried glances. They weren't sure about this plan, but they all knew they had run out of options. The message was clear. They had to act. They prepared another transmission. It was a simple signal, but this time they used a frequency that hadn't been tested before. It was a frequency they didn't fully understand but hoped would connect them to whatever force the ghost ship was using. They sent it into the void, directed straight at the ship, and waited. Nothing happened for what seemed like an eternity. The tension in the room grew thick. Had they made a mistake? Had they provoked something they shouldn't have? Every sound inside the station felt louder now. The hum of the power systems, the soft peeping of the consoles, even their own breathing seemed louder. Then, the screens flickered once more. The lights in the control room dimmed briefly before the message appeared. You are not alone. The words were simple, but the meaning felt like a punch in the chest. It was as if the ship had finally answered them. But what did it mean? They had felt like they weren't alone for days, but now it was real. This was not just a feeling. There was something out there, something with them. Rayner felt a chill run down his spine. The message was clear, but it only led to more questions. Who else is here? He asked aloud, though he knew no one could answer him. Lyra's voice shook slightly as she spoke. I don't know, but we need to understand what this is. We need to know if we're part of something bigger, something we don't even realize. The team agreed. They were no longer just dealing with a ghost ship. They were dealing with something much more complex. They were connected to it now, whether they wanted to be or not, and they didn't know what the ship would do next. Suddenly, the walls of the station seemed to vibrate. It was faint at first, almost like the hum of a distant machine, but then it grew louder, more urgent, until it filled the room. The station's systems began to flicker, and the temperature dropped. The air felt heavy. Rayner turned to his crew. "Brace yourselves. Something is happening." As the vibrations continued to increase, the screens flashed once more. This time, they didn't just show words. They showed an image. A picture of the station, but not how it looked now. This was different. The image was blurry at first, then it began to clear. And what they saw wasn't the present. It was the future. The station was in ruins, empty, cold, and abandoned. But the ghost ship was there, hovering over the wreckage. And there, in the shadows, the same figure they had seen inside the ship stood again, watching. It raised a hand again, pointing at them. And the message appeared. "You will join us. You are already part of what comes." Rayner's heart pounded in his chest. This was no longer a warning. It was a truth. They were connected. They were part of something they couldn't understand, something that was coming for them, no matter how hard they tried to fight it. The future was already in motion, and they were running out of time. The images from the future haunted the crew long after they had faded from the screen. They couldn't shake the feeling that everything they had done, every step, every decision, had already been set in motion long before they even arrived at Orion Watchpoint. Rayner paced back and forth in the control room, his mind racing. "We need to focus," he said, trying to steady his thoughts. "This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about understanding what's happening. We have to be ready for whatever comes next." Lyra, still shaken, ran her fingers over the data screens. The future they had seen seemed too real, too detailed. She couldn't get the image of the wrecked station out of her mind. The crew abandoned. The ship still out there, the figure pointing at them. But how can we fight something we don't understand? We don't even know if we're still in control of our own time. Alex had been quiet until now. His voice was calm, but there was an edge of worry in it. What if we're not supposed to fight? What if we're just supposed to accept this? The words hung in the air, heavy and uncomfortable. Accept it. Accept the idea that they were caught in something far beyond their comprehension, that they had no choice but to let whatever was happening unfold. Rayner's eyes narrowed. "No, we can't just accept it. We have to figure out why this is happening and how to stop it before it's too late." Despite his strong words, Rayner felt an unease growing inside him. They had tried everything to reach out to Earth. They had sent messages, but they had received no replies. The ghost ship seemed to be the only force in the universe that could hear them. And it wasn't a friend. For days, the station had felt off. It wasn't just the strange energy from the ship. It was the feeling that something was pulling at them, like they were drifting into a current they couldn't escape. But the crew had no time to dwell on their fears. Every day, the ship outside seemed to grow more active. The signals that echoed through the station were becoming stronger. The hums, the lights, the subtle vibrations, they all seemed to be urging the crew toward something. They didn't know what it was, but the ship wasn't just sending messages anymore. It was trying to pull them closer. "We need to go back outside," Alex said one afternoon. "We need to approach the ship again. This time, we need to learn what it wants from us." Lyra shook her head. "We don't even know what we're dealing with. What if the ship is changing us? What if it's too late for us to turn back?" Rayner turned to her, his face tight with determination. "We don't have a choice. We either face it or we wait to be consumed by it. This thing is not just an anomaly. It's part of something larger, and we need to understand it before it's too late." The decision was made. They prepared for another spacewalk. But this time, there was no excitement, no sense of adventure, only fear. The closer they got to the ghost ship, the more they could feel it, an unseen force pulling them in. When they reached the ship's surface, it was as cold and still as ever. But now, the strange symbols etched into the metal were clearer and brighter. They glowed softly, pulsing in a slow, rhythmic pattern, like the heartbeat of something ancient. Alex, Lyra, and Rayner stood still, watching the glowing lines. There was something mesmerizing about them, as if they were trying to communicate. The symbols seemed to move slowly, shifting as if they had a life of their own. Lyra reached out cautiously, touching one of the lines. The moment her gloved hand made contact, a sudden rush of energy shot through her. It was like a wave of heat and cold at once, like being pulled through time itself. She pulled back quickly, her breath sharp inside the helmet. "What happened?" Raynor asked, his voice tight with worry. Lyra shook her head. "I don't know. But I felt something, inside me. Like it was trying to show me something." Alex stepped forward, looking at the symbols more closely. What if the ship isn't just trying to communicate? What if it's trying to connect with us? What if it's not just some random object in space? What if it's something trying to merge with us? To be part of us? The idea sent a cold shiver down Raynor's spine. "You mean it's using us to get closer to something? To pull us into whatever future it's from?" "Exactly," Alex said, his voice low. "We've been hearing it for days now. The warnings, the signs, the messages. It's not just here to watch us. It's here because it needs us. It wants us to be part of its future." Raynor looked at the ship, his gaze fixed on the glowing symbols. "But why? Why us? Why this crew?" "I don't know," Alex admitted, "but we're more connected to it than we realize. The messages, the dreams, the visions, they're all signs. The future we saw on the screens. That's where we're headed. If we don't figure this out, we might end up part of that future." Lyra felt a cold sweat forming beneath her spacesuit. "We can't let that happen. We have to stop this, whatever it is." Raynor nodded grimly. "We will. But we need more answers first. We need to understand how this ship is connected to time, to the future, and how we can break free from its hold." As they prepared to leave the surface of the ship, Alex looked back at the glowing symbols one last time. "If we're part of something bigger, then maybe we need to stop thinking of this as just a mission. Maybe it's time to face the truth, that we're not just explorers anymore. We're part of a story that's been unfolding for longer than we can imagine." The journey back to the station was quiet, the weight of their discovery pressing down on them. The ghost ship was no longer just a mystery. It was a force that was calling them, pushing them, and if they didn't act quickly, they would be swept up in its tide, carried into a future they couldn't control. And they didn't know if they could stop it. The crew had no more time to waste. The ghost ship was waiting. Every minute they spent searching for answers only seemed to pull them deeper into the unknown. It was as though they had crossed some invisible line, and now there was no turning back. Raynor sat in the control room, staring at the monitors. The ship outside was silent, as always, but the feeling of being watched was stronger than ever. He could sense its presence, like a shadow hanging over them. He knew they were running out of time. The ship had made it clear. They were part of something much bigger now. The question was, what would happen when they reached the end of this journey? Would they be lost in time, forever connected to this unknown force? Or was there a way to break free? The silence that followed their return to the station felt heavier than ever before. The crew was unsettled, but they had no choice but to face the truth. They were at the mercy of something they couldn't even begin to understand. The ship outside, the messages, the strange connection. It all pointed to one thing. They were part of something far larger than they could have imagined. Raynor sat alone in the control room, staring at the blank screens, trying to think. His mind kept returning to the image of the ruined station from the future. Was that where they were headed? Would they all end up like the forgotten crew in that vision? Or was there still a chance to change it? Lyra and Alex were busy trying to access more data, anything that could shed light on what was really happening. But every lead seemed to circle back to the same questions, the same mysteries. The ship wasn't just a vessel. It was an anchor to something much bigger. A larger plan, a larger force. But what was that force, and what did it want with them? Raynor leaned forward, his fingers brushing over the edge of the console. "We have to find a way to understand it. If we don't, we might never get the chance to stop it. Lyra entered the room, her face tense. Captain, I found something. A pattern in the data. It's subtle, but it's there. The ship is not just sending signals. It's sending us memories, thoughts, images of the future that seem personal. It's like it's trying to show us what we'll become. Raynor stood up quickly. Personal. How can that be? It's hard to explain. Lyra continued, showing him the data on her tablet. Look at this. The ship's signals are becoming more detailed. They're not just general warnings anymore. They're tailored. They're specific to us, to our experiences. It's almost like it knows us, like it's trying to teach us something. Alex walked into the room, his face pale. I've been monitoring the communication frequencies again. The ship, it's not just a ship. It's a being, and it's learning from us, adapting. It's taking our memories, our thoughts, and making them part of its own. Raynor's mind raced. So it's trying to merge with us, to use our experiences and become something else. Lyra nodded. That's what I think. It's not just a ship. It's an entity, an intelligence, an ancient one, trying to understand our time, our reality. And it's doing that by connecting with us, by taking us into its fold. The ship, the messages, the visions, it's all part of the same process. It's trying to transform us, to take us with it into the future. Raynor felt a chill run down his spine. But we've seen the future, Lyra. We saw what happens when it succeeds. The station is destroyed. The crew is gone. We're alone in that empty future. We don't know that's how it will happen, Alex said, trying to offer a small measure of hope. Maybe the future is just one possibility. Maybe we can change it if we can figure out how. Raynor shook his head. That's what I've been trying to do. But the closer we get to the ship, the more we lose ourselves. It's pulling us in. We're becoming part of it whether we want to or not. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, and the station trembled. A low hum filled the air. This was different. Stronger. Almost urgent. The ship outside was reacting, responding to them, as if it had been waiting for something. The crew ran to the observation deck, looking out at the ship, now pulsing with energy, brighter than before. It seemed to be alive in a way that wasn't natural. Lyra gasped. It's evolving. The ship, it's changing. It's becoming something more. Raynor's heart pounded. We don't have much time. The screens flashed, and a message appeared again, clearer than ever. You are closer. It has begun. The words echoed in Raynor's mind. The ship wasn't just a ghost from the past. It was a bridge between times, a link between two realities, and they had become part of its story. Look at this, Alex said, pointing at the control panel. The ship's systems are syncing with ours. It's like they're merging. Raynor stepped forward. He had a choice to make. The crew was already changing, becoming part of the ship's plans. But there was still a chance to resist, to stop this before it consumed them completely. We need to find a way to break the connection, Raynor said. If we don't, we'll lose everything. Our minds, our lives. We'll be part of this future we saw. But I think there's a way to stop it. Lyra looked at him, her eyes filled with uncertainty. How? The ship's already in control. It's too powerful. Raynor turned to the station's emergency systems, thinking quickly. We've been focusing on the wrong things. We've been trying to understand the ship, to communicate with it. But that's not the answer. The ship is manipulating us. It's pulling us into its story. But we have the power to break free. He looked at the others, his resolve firm. We need to sever the connection. If we can disconnect the ship's systems from the station, we can stop it from merging with us. We can end this before it's too late. The crew worked quickly, setting up a plan to cut off the ship's influence. It wasn't easy. Every time they tried to disconnect, the ship fought back, sending waves of energy that rattled the station. The air seemed to pulse with power, as if the ship knew what they were trying to do and didn't want to let go. But Rayner and his team didn't give up. They fought against the pull, pushing through the overwhelming force that the ship had placed on them. They knew that if they failed, the future they had seen, the ruined station, the empty crew, would become their reality. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they managed to sever the final connection. The ship's hum faded, and the vibrations in the station stopped. For a moment, everything was still. The crew stood in silence, watching the ship outside. It was no longer pulsing, no longer alive. They had done it. They had stopped it. But as they looked out into the vast emptiness of space, none of them could shake the feeling that they hadn't completely escaped. They had broken the connection, but the ship, the being, was still out there, watching, waiting. And they knew, deep down, that it would always be with them. The future was no longer a question. It was a warning. And the real journey was just beginning.